Renly is king. What do you think about that?
Your stance on Renly being a good or a bad king?
I would not be happy with
Hey,
not
someone
a big Renly
with some
fan.
sense.
No,
finally,
not a fan. Burn him at the stake.
Thank you so much, man. Validation is great.
What up, and welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners, your favorite full spoiler reread podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series. Currently on A Clash of Kings. As always, I'm Nate, joining me, my brother, Zach.
What up? Today I am the least important person on this episode for once.
What else is new?
Yeah.
For once.
Normally we would be reading A Clash of Kings. As you know, we like to do a read-along, but we have a super extra special episode. We have our very first guest on the podcast, all the way from the UK, Sir Buckley is joining us.
Yeah, host of Isle of Faces and author of the newly released, I think in December, Great Castles of Westeros, an unofficial guide. Thank you for being here, Joe. Welcome to Brotherhood Without Manners.
Yeah.
Hi, Fez. Thanks for having me on. I'm honoured to be your first guest. Very glad indeed.
Yeah, we've been so psyched about this interview. We've been teasing it for months now, but finally to actually get down and get to record it. Schedules, different timelines.
Yeah.
Time zones, not timelines. We don't live in alternate universes.
No, yeah. So,
but yeah, we've both read the book. I'm currently, I haven't finished, but I'm currently making my way through it, and we're big.
It's a big old
yeah,
book.
we're big fans. So I think anyone who has read this book series, enjoyed any of the companions like Dunk and Egg or Fire and Blood, will enjoy something like this to delve more into it. It's phenomenal. The writing it pulls you in. It's just goddamn. I'm gushing. But so yeah, we wanted to promote your book because it's fantastic and we think everyone should read it, but we wanted to get to know you a little bit more. So you mentioned a little bit of your childhood in the book, but growing up, did you always know that writing and reading were your passion, that you would end up maybe one day publishing some sort of book? Or
Yeah, well, it didn't start well. I was really bad at reading at school. I was like well behind in like when I first started school and couldn't read at all, and it wasn't going well. My mother ended up buying me Beanos. I don't know if you have those over there, like dandies. And I still remember having them and not being able to read the speech bubbles, but that's how I learned to read. And then I guess once it caught fire quickly because after that. Yeah,
you
that's
got
it.
the bug,
And just spent all day reading books, graphic novels, anything I could get my hands on. Writing, that came pretty early as well. I still have a floppy disk from like 95 where I've been writing like Digimon like fan fiction stuff.
Digimon
like
fan fiction, hell yeah.
awesome.
All the way. I'm gonna have to bust it out and put
Absolutely.
it on.
Yeah, definitely. That's
You mentioned some graphic. Did you have like a favorite series that really helped you grasp reading and get better at it, or a particular one that you really enjoyed, or anything like that growing up?
When I was really young, it was those Beanos. My grandparents bought me like all the annuals back to like the 70s and the 60s and stuff like that. And then as I got older, I was getting like Batman every week, and I had all the Star Wars graphic novels, the expanded universe ones.
Great.
That was I was well into them. And I remember getting on World Book Day when at the end of primary school we got like one of those free kind of real short stories. I think it was from the Edge Chronicles, and that kind of got me into sci-fi and fantasy. And then we got read Harry Potter at school, and then it all went into there. And yeah, writing just kept going. I wrote like a fantasy novel that I'm sure was awful when I was like 11. It was like 500 pages long, and I guess teenage years dropped off a bit. I was a bit busy being drunk and being rejected by girls and stuff. But it came back in the end. In like 2012, I wrote this big, like 300,000 fan fiction of Star Wars because I was bored watching basketball at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Is that online? Is that available?
Oh no, it's still secret in the hard drive.
Oh no, he says that's in the vault.
No, I'm jealous because Zach here's the writer when we were even now growing up and everything, and I've never had the knack for writing, and so like I just I didn't actually get big into comics until later in life, and so I was more into like I read a lot of like murder mysteries and the classics growing up, so like 10, 12 years old, I'm reading like fucking Agatha Christie.
It's
like,
funny you mentioned
War
Agatha.
and
She
Peace
was
and
the
shit.
first story I ever wrote, because I used to do the same. I would write different little
Yeah.
fanfics of different stories I had read when I was younger, and Agatha Christie was the first one, a murder mystery. At the end, everyone dies, and it was stuff an 8-year-old really shouldn't be writing, but I did anyway, and because I just loved the murder mystery aspect of the whodunit.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I converted my writing into D&D because I find I'm just much better at Dungeons and Dragons writing than I am at novel writing, as I always wanted to do. But reading your book, the Great Castles of Westeros, you would never know that you had struggled with reading and writing, and I just think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
The growth there alone is just you use such beautiful language in the book that it feels something that Martin would write. It could feel like a maester's tome, a maester's description of these different castles, and it's shocking to learn that you struggled with that. So that's really awesome that you overcame that. So what was it with A Song of Ice and Fire? Did you pick it up when they came out? Did you have friends who were like, you need to read this, or were you just initially gravitated towards it on your own?
I was real late to the party, to be honest. When the TV series came out, I completely ignored it. Wasn't interested. I was still at university, so I guess I was kind of busy. But even when I got home after, the first scene I ever saw, I was just flicking through channels, and it was the end of season 2 when Theon loses Winterfell, and I just watched that scene with Lewin and thought, like, what the hell is going on here? I had no idea. And then I was just at my buddy's flat, and he kind of turned to me and said, you would really like this. I have it on DVD. Should we just watch it? And I went, no, it's too mainstream. I'm going to be cool. I'm not going to follow the crowd. No, I'm not a lemming. And then he put it on, and that was kind of the end of it. And yeah, same thing as in my youth, just went with it. Burned through. I guess this was when season 4 was coming out, so just burned through them. Grabbed the books. I wasn't patient enough with the books. I kept skipping ahead and looking on the wiki and being like, what happens here? What happens here? And it just kind of fell through, and that's how I kind of found the fandom, because those old wikis used to link to Tower of the Hand.
Yeah, that's funny. Zach was very similar.
I was resistant.
He was very late to the game, because I had read the first 3 books before the show came out.
Yeah, you were pretty up on it.
And so I had recommended them to Zach for years, and it wasn't until like season 3 or something.
Yeah, season 4 had just finished.
Yeah, same as me.
And I had seen more of the show than I ever did the books, and actually some buddies got me pretty good and drunk and showed me the Red Wedding, and that just destroyed me emotionally as a human being. And I said, all right, I need to watch this show. And then the show had a season break, and I was like, yeah, I need the books now. And I was one of the impatient ones who just read them as quick as I could just for the end. I wanted to know what happened at the end, and then it wasn't until I did a reread, and I was like, wow, these books are much deeper than I ever thought. It's not just this story. There's stories within stories, and
they get better when you reread.
Yeah, absolutely. You find so much more in the background moving that you never pay attention to. So you had mentioned there were some medieval fantasy graphic novels and books. Did you was that sort of the genre you always gravitated towards? Were those, or did you sprinkle a little bit of everything in? I tended to sprinkle a bit of everything.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I was trying to think. I don't think there's anything specifically medieval I'd read before. Like, Harry Potter was kind of spoon-fed to us being British, and all the Star Wars ones. Discworld I found when I was like 12 and fell in love with those. And yes, kept going really. So not medieval specifically, just kind of fantasy, I guess, Edge Chronicle stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Are you a gamer? Do you do video games
gamer,
as well?
Yeah. Zach doesn't follow Twitter.
I'm not on
much,
Twitter. Yeah, I'm a Twitter noob.
He's obsessed with Breath of the Wild.
Oh, excellent.
Zelda. His dog is named Zelda.
That's right.
So that's is that also a source of storytelling? Is that sort of what draws you to the video games as well? Is the same sort of worlds that you can get lost in, and then in video games interact with and get a little more out of it?
Yeah, it probably
is
is
sort
actually
of the same draw. Yeah, because that's what it is for me. I find, especially as I get older, when I was a kid I loved them, but now it's more about the choices I can make, and do I do this or do I do this? So I think that's also why we gush about Dungeons and Dragons so much, because it's pretty much that.
Yeah, I've not actually thought about that before, but yeah, it probably is, because Ocarina of Time was a big game when I was growing up. 7, and that's like the basic of stories, but told brilliantly, and as you say, I've gone with all the other Zeldas since. So yeah, I suppose it is now. I'm still playing, like the storyline of Red Dead and Detroit, and I fall in love with those. Not as much time as I'd like anymore with all these things I do.
Yeah,
so
that's how
sometimes it has to just be Fortnite without a story, but still.
So what was it? Was there a moment where you, in a Song of Ice and Fire, that struck you, where you were like, yeah, I want to write something about this world? Was it a particular moment or a particular description of a castle, or was it you finished a story and you were like, I want more, so I'll just produce my own content for it?
Yeah, it probably was that last one a bit. Like I said, I could have just found Tower of the Hand and found all these really in-depth essays and the theories and stuff, and that was my first inkling there was this big fandom, because I didn't really know anyone else that had read them. I knew other people that had seen the show, but no one else was reading them. So I just kind of wanted to be involved in that discussion. I thought, well, what's the best way to do this? And I thought, if I write something, I can talk to someone about it. So I began writing at Tower of the Hand. I think I was writing about the show first. It's already like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I think my first one was something about Melisandre, but I really wouldn't care to go back and read it. I'm sure it's actually absolute rubbish. And kind of graduated from there. Like a year or two later, got hired by History of Westeros to do writing for them, and then it really kicked off because obviously they're so into,
of course, yeah,
detail
absolutely.
and everything. I really had to kind of step it up. I remember after my first call with Aziz, I kind of put it down. I actually need to. I'm gonna need to reread quick.
Yeah, that's a tall order with them
exactly.
over there. So
yeah, no, because
so no, I don't think.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. I don't think there was a particular moment or even the subject. I really can't remember my first few essays. I remember the first few for History of Westeros with Brynden and the Manderleys and that, but no, I can't really remember the exact moment. I thought, yeah, I should do this or that.
Yeah, well, that's like, because I've dreamed of getting those posts up on Reddit and those types of articles out, but again, I'm not much of a writer, and so that's how I got into the fandom, was by finding History of Westeros and all those different podcasts and following those guys and what they were putting out, because I was like, I can't write this stuff. And one day we were like, we do talk about it well, though. So why don't we try?
Well, we talk about it enough that, we might as well just put it out there. Yeah, that was the same for me as, and I think that's for a lot of creators, is I consumed the content until there was no more content, and that led you and I to the decision to start creating our own.
Yeah.
And, just adding something to this world, being a part of this fandom and this community in this world is so interesting, because there's always something to talk about. There's always something that's...
Well, it's, just like he said that, you didn't know that there were other people reading the books. We just want more people to talk to about this stuff that we love. Yeah. And so, if that means that we have to make something for them to come to us, wonderful. And it's been great, because that's exactly what's happened. So things that have not come to us would be Winds of Winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you're aware, George Martin made an announcement that he would be holding a published copy of the manuscript at Worldcon.
You're holding them to that.
Oh, yeah. So yesterday, maybe it was 2 days ago, was exactly 5 months away from Worldcon 2020. Do you think that he's going to have it there? And what do you think?
I saw I think it was on Reddit, someone arguing, like, could he have a published copy, or would he still be forced to have a manuscript copy by now, like it's getting close? I would like to say that he will. I am quite the optimist.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I feel like at this point he knows if he confirms something and actually puts it out there, that he's got to deliver, or he's going to have a mob mentality after
It'll be a
him.
rough summer, yeah.
People are crazy. So with that being said, is there any specific plot lines that you're really, really jonesing for, you're really looking forward to in Winds of Winter?
Oh, it's tough.
I know, there's so many.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
I'm one of the people, like, I'll take whatever I can get. There's no particular part of the story I dislike or anything like that. I don't mind the Greyjoys or Dawn or anything. I really want to see Brienne and Jaime. The whole Riverlands, actually, especially the prologue. I want to see if the prologue is, what people have theorized it is. Yeah, anything really. But,
No, it's
obviously,
funny
a lot
that
of
you
the castles,
mentioned.
but, yeah.
It's funny you mentioned the Greyjoys and Dorne because those are actually some of my favorite storylines.
Yeah,
I just think
great.
they're so well written. But then to bring up Brienne and Jaime because I've mentioned frequently on our show I wasn't a fan of Brienne whatsoever. My first two rereads, I did not like her.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, my third time reading through, I just fell in love. And I was like, she's the greatest character.
I'm very similar.
She's so good. And so, yeah, the prologue, like you mentioned, and just seeing them played out is high on my list as well.
So the big question is Renly. Renly is king. What do you think about that?
Your stance on Renly being a good or a bad king?
I would not be happy with
Renly.
Not
Someone
a big Renly
with some
fan.
sense.
No,
finally.
Not a fan. Burn him at the stake.
Thank you so much, man. Validation is great.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so especially speaking of Reddit, we've mentioned it a couple times. The community can be a little spicy at times with certain things that occur. The TV show is one of them. Was that something that you kind of had to talk to yourself over about jumping in both feet with publishing something in this world? Is the response that you might get from it? Because no matter what, you can't please everyone. Obviously we both have read it and loved every second that I've read of it, but somewhere someone is probably going to make a relatively stupid comment. And was that a concern for you, or were you just so passionate about the project that who cares what anyone has to think?
I think it was actually kind of like a kind of tempering me by fire thing, because when I originally tweeted it, I kind of thought like, I might get 50 likes or something like that, and I went out to basketball, came back, and there was like 1,000 likes and retweets and stuff, and I was like, I have to actually make it good.
Awesome,
I have to make it good, and I think it was stressful because I had to reread everything and be like, what corridor did they walk down? Who was there when? And stuff like this. What order have I got it in? And just check and recheck, because there are people like Aziz and everyone else who just kind of knows this thing off by heart. I don't get anything wrong. I was never really worried about it being like, this is a stupid idea or anything like that. I mean, people have said that on Reddit and stuff, but that's just a part of the
that's the internet.
That's part of the thing. And having written kind of fiction and that for years now, I kind of quickly learn if you do go out like, I have to please everyone, you're going to have a real rough time real quick. So just kind of go for it, like you say. And I had enough support in the fandom already, like people being real nice about the podcast and just about stuff I'd written before, that I thought it's pretty unlikely they're all going to turn on me unless I do a really bad job. And
there's definitely a sense of positivity and upliftingness in the community. It's just
generally there's always
definitely a little more vocal in this community about things we dislike. So and I think that's great advice for any creative of, don't really worry so much about the noise. If you're passionate about it, just do it. And those that support you are the ones that you should be listening to. That 1,000 likes you got on that one tweet, that's awesome, because the support is just immediately there. So yeah, that's dope. I like it.
That's cool. Yeah. Now I wanted to mention, or ask anyway, you had, I believe it was on your pre-release episode for the book, mentioned that you had a lot of information on some of the smaller castles and the lesser houses, things like that, and that, you had considered adding an addendum or putting something else out. Have you put any other thoughts towards that idea, that prospect of...
Yeah, I was surprised, actually, people asking for castles afterwards, after it came out.
Awesome.
And like Harrenhal was an obvious one that I did consider putting in, but I left out in the end. But people have been asking for, like, Mormont Keep and Raven Tree Hall, and that's going to be a very short chapter on Mormont Keep.
Yeah, there's not much information.
Maybe one day, but I think, I've always planned, because we will get more information at some point, whether it's through Winds and Dreams, but obviously Fire and Blood 2 is going to come out. I'm sure that won't be the end. Duncan Egg as well. I'm sure there'll be more kind of... it's information books and that kind of thing. So there will be more information I'd like to update it as I go. Definitely, yeah.
Man, people are already hungry for more.
They're
They're asking you for more. Yeah, that's awesome. That's excellent. Did you? Was there a favorite castle or keep that you had to research and write, or is that one of the addendum ones,
probably
one that you haven't written about yet?
No, to be honest, they all like as cliche as it sounds, they all really kind of formed into their own personalities with me because I was spending so long on each of them. Well, at the beginning, I was spending so long, I kind of got better as I went and got quicker and quicker.
Yeah.
That Winterfell chapter at the end took 2 weeks, and that was the fastest chapter, even though it's the longest. But no, I fell in love with each of them. My favourite overall is Riverrun, just because I love the setting. I'm a river man.
Riverrun, yeah.
And just writing Winterfell, trying to capture the kind of family aspect of Winterfell was very enjoyable. Not so much when the bad stuff happens, but at the beginning, that was really fun. And yeah, just trying to get across what Winterfell meant. It was tough, but it was enjoyable.
Yeah, I think Winterfell was one of the first castles I read. I skipped ahead to that, and then went back and started with Storm's End at the beginning. But yeah, I thought you captured Winterfell great. It was such a good description in there.
Yeah. Well, no, I was gonna add some more to Winterfell, but I'll talk.
Oh,
a little
hell
bit
yeah,
on that.
Winterfell!
Well, I'll talk a bit more on that later.
I talk Winterfell all day.
That's it. I'll leave that for inductee talk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but I did see you had again one of your probably a lot of your past episodes that I might have missed a few. You talked about visiting castles as a kid, and you know how that influenced you. Now I've been to one castle. I don't know how many there really are here in the United States, honestly.
Real ones?
Yeah, but I've been to one as far as I know, and I thought it was like awesome experience. Like I had a blast that day, made a whole visit of it, took the big extended tour. Do you have a real life castle that you, so far, I know you have stated that you have plans to visit many more, hopefully in the future, but any at the moment that you really are top notch, your favorite, you could go to 100 times? I'm sure all of them, but
yeah. The one I mentioned in the book, Warwick Castle, that was the one that I went to as a kid, and just kind of, like you said, they have these big days for kids where you can, like they have jousting on, and
hell yeah.
They have a working trebuchet now. When I was working in schools recently, I've sent kids there because I knew it's going to be awesome for them.
Yeah.
And they put chainmail on me and made me walk around with a helmet on and stuff like that. That was cool. So that's really great. That's really accessible here, and it's right in the middle of the country here, so I think everyone can get to it. I have a castle in my hometown that's kind of like 10 minutes down the road, so I'm quite in love with that one just because I'm a bit loyal. You can't go in it, but it looks cool. And I've been to a bunch up near Scotland. Went along Hadrian's Wall when I was a kid, so that's cool. York. I lived in Cardiff for a while, and theirs is just literally in the city centre, so that's cool. And me and the wife went over to Northern Ireland in September, went on the Game of Thrones tour. So that would include like Corfe Castle and a bunch of other ones whose names I forget, where they filmed Pike and stuff like that.
That's
so they're
awesome.
they're all over here. I've not even scratched the surface.
Right.
Yeah, California sucks.
Yeah, we have one in the middle somewhere, but no, it was cool. It was a really good one.
Is there any that you haven't been to that you would love to, that you really want to go to?
There's definitely European ones I'd like to go in Germany, like the big fairy tale ones, stuff like that. I mean, like I say, the options are kind of endless. Even stuff in London that's kind of turned into modern stuff is still castle-ish, like Tower of London that I've been to and stuff like that. So Windsor, Balmoral and stuff like that, you can go and have a look at some of them. And like I say, it's kind of endless options, really. I don't think I'll ever run out.
Well, book two will pay for that for you, for all those castle trips.
Yeah, so I suppose we're getting pretty close towards the end here, so we'll just wrap up with one more question here. I'm thinking we'll just do which one's your favorite supplement book of all the ones that you've read? A Song of Ice and Fire, the Dunk and Egg stuff, is it,
Fire and Blood?
Which do you prefer to, or again, as a whole, they're all wonderful in their own rights, but
yeah, they are. I probably would have said The Sworn Sword at one point after I'd read that, but since Fire and Blood has come out, even though I had to speed read it because I delayed writing the book specifically to wait for Fire and Blood to come out, because to add all that extra information. But when I kind of went back and actually read it, especially the Jaehaerys and Alysanne stuff, especially her closing page where she goes back to Dragonstone, that just gets me right in the feels. And there are parts of it I'm not as interested in, especially later on with Aegon III and stuff like that. But that Jaehaerys, all the beginning, the first half of the book, I'm obsessed with, and it's just written as beautifully as the main series, just just as emotional, even though it's a history book. So yeah, Fire and Blood, definitely. I'm looking forward to the second.
Sweet. I haven't finished it yet, so there's that. So I can't claim that one would be my favorite.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I mean, it's a history, so it's
I'm trudging through it, and like you said, time is just a thing. So my favorites are the Dunk and Egg at the moment, but I'm just a sucker for the Dunk type characters, those big feel good types.
You can't go wrong.
So with that, Zach, do you have an inductee for the Great Castles of Westeros?
From the Great Castles of Westeros, written by one Sir Buckley, I will be giving my inductee to the Castle of Highgarden, and the description that Sir Buckley gave to it, as I pull it up on my phone here. As we step across the border to the realm of our next visit, we would be forgiven for thinking we had drifted upward to the stars and landed upon a different planetos entirely. Such is the stark contrast between our most southerly stops. The scorched deserts of Dorne are so arid and dry, it is difficult to imagine that behind a mere line of mountains, in the realm of their closest neighbor, lies a land of such bounty and beauty, it is like something from a fairy tale. I think that perfectly describes Highgarden to me. There's nothing special about this castle, and that's what makes it special. It's not on a hill. It's not on the side of a mountain. It's just special in its beauty, in that everyone there is happy, and it's a fairy tale, and House Tyrell is the shit. So Highgarden for me from Great Castles of Westeros.
Sweet.
What's yours?
So I hinted at it earlier. Mine goes to Winterfell. Yep. And while it's a big part just because it's one of my favorites because of a lot of the Bran chapters. I really like the mysticism behind its architecture and how strange it's crafted. But Joe just put such a great wording on the way he describes it, and so I'm gonna give it to what the hell am I saying?
Winterfell.
Westeros. Winterfell. Because it's just a badass castle in the north, man. It's
and
holding
a badass
strong.
Family.
And so so did you have yourself an inductee for your book there, Joe?
Yeah, sure. I'll go the opposite end then. I'll go Storm's End, the one that started it all.
Oh yeah.
That's always, ever since I first came up with the idea, that was always first, mainly because I wanted to say we would start at the end. And that was the one kind of on. It's been rewritten like 3 times, so that's always been the kind of one that tempers the different style. And this final rewrite this year, last year now, it was the kind of testing chapter to have this kind of journey voice in it and have the kind of in-depth look in geography and stuff like that, and stuff that I hadn't done in the previous 2 versions, 2 edits, drafts, or whatever you want to call them. So that's always the first stepping stone for me. And also I really like the castle, the strong, defiant. It's the one I want to get in more than, I don't care if we don't go in Highgarden or Castle Rock. I want to actually be in Storm's End because we've only ever been underneath it. I want to actually have a look in it because I'm betting it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, Storm's End for me.
Awesome. I'm glad that you picked Storm's End just because of all the chapters. Well, again, the whole book in its entirety is wonderful. That one was the castle that I think I enjoyed reading about the most because it's the one I feel like I know the least about. And so for you to have compiled that all in one spot so that you can just learn about this that you don't know shit about, when really there's a decent amount of information that you can take from the text, and you've put it all there for us to find. So that was one of my favorite ones to read about. So,
and just what a name, Storm's End. Like,
yeah,
hell
exactly.
Yeah, man, I'm for it. So Joe, thank you so much for being our first guest and for writing and compiling all this information in a great, easy to read, fun to read book that is just written so well. The information is great and well compiled, and the language is absolutely beautiful. And so, yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for writing the book.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to hear such reception, especially on the information is the information. To hear such compliments on the writing style, which obviously is never confident in my mind. That's lovely to hear. So thank you. I think it's actually, now that I think about it, the 3-month anniversary today. I'm pretty sure it came out on the 3rd of December.
Hell
so it's
yeah,
nice to
that's perfect.
Bust it out and talk about it again. Yeah,
excellent.
Thank you for
So
having
yeah,
me.
so I can't pretend to know all of your socials. I mostly follow you on Twitter. So why don't you take a second and share where people can find you and follow you
and get
hear
your book,
you.
yeah,
and your all everything.
Yeah, Twitter's the place to find me, at Sir Buckley, SER Buckley. On the Other Faces podcast as well, you can find us just about anywhere. Type us into Google, would be on Podbean, YouTube, and yeah, as you say, the Great Castles of Westeros is still selling away on Amazon. You can find it on there, so that's always
so we've actually
lovely.
had the link to your Amazon there on our show notes for like 2 months or so.
You've been
now,
very kind,
so,
very kind.
That'll stay up there for a while.
We'll be keeping that up. You guys can find the book there.
And we're
go buy it. Go check it out.
Yeah,
it's
we'll
amazing.
get his links into the show notes as well, so it should be a little bit easier to get him. As always, you can find us on Twitter at Manners Without. Zach's on Twitter at Carstark92. If you want to write in with some inductees, if you have any kind words to send about Joe, his book, if you've read it, reach out to him, reach out to us. You can find our email, withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com. All the other socials. So I suppose with that we'll
sign off here. Thank you again, Joe, and go pick up.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Westeros.
Keep up the good work.
All right, thank you, Valor de Harris.
Peace.